Alright, or the furthest thing from alright, I suppose. Dark Souls 3 with 1 health point, 1 focus point and 1 stamina point on the highest New Game Plus cycle, New Game Plus 7. Yes, it's time for this inanity and insanity again. I already went through Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 like this a while back, and you would think that would have been one too many already. But after a while that sense of wanderlust emerges again. And hey, it's Dark Souls 3, so I have 3 points in total, a pair of raggedy pants, and well, 1 brain cell remaining at this point. Because how does this game even function under these circumstances? Obviously you can only perform 1 stamina consuming action at a time, so only single attacks, no combos of any kind, but you might think that your stamina is either at 1 or 0 at any time. However, that's not how any stamina system works in these games. Instead, your stamina goes into the negative, meaning that heavy weapons and heavy attacks leave you vulnerable for much longer than fast attacks from smaller weapons. When rolling, there is a gap between your individual dodges, which might appear to be tiny, but this can and absolutely will get you killed many times over. And probably harshest of all, especially as it turns out in this particular game, you cannot perform any roll attacks, nor can you immediately roll out of danger right after an attack animation in the first place. And it does take a challenge like this to truly comprehend how unimaginably important roll attacks, plus the ability to instantly roll after an attack, truly is in this game in particular. Unless of course you are a master at no rolling strategies, which I have next to no knowledge of and experience with. In fact, mere no rolling strats aren't sufficient in the first place, because with 1 stamina you also cannot run. And the difference between no rolling compared to no rolling and no sprinting is in fact a huge difference in both strategy as well as execution. And again, my knowledge of either is extremely limited. On top of that, performing a single action at a time entails another complexity, which is the inability to queue inputs, meaning that during fast combat your inputs have to be incredibly precise, as any dodge or attack prompt will not register at all if it's pressed before your single stamina point has regenerated. And speaking of stamina regen, that's still important because it applies to your negative stamina as well. However, stamina regen boosting in Dark Souls 3 is kind of pathetic. So it wasn't until late game where this actually started to matter in specific cases. So before that I rather had a clutch ring in that ring slot and kept my weight low for flinch ring. When it comes to FP, the single point I have is basically only there for sake of consistency to adhere to the theme. Because effectively, 1 FP is the exact same as having 0 FP. As there is not a single spell or weapon art that you can use with a single focus point. Other than the fact that certain weapon arts are technically still usable without FP at all, however that was almost never useful. And all of that combined with only having a single hit point, meaning that I have 0 margin of error at any point in the entire game. Now, the fact that enemies hit harder on New Game Plus 7 is obviously irrelevant, but what is incredibly relevant is that they not only have much more HP, but also more base defense, meaning that they take less damage as well, and their resistance to status effects is also increased. Moreover, resins add a flat damage amount, making them practically useless on New Game Plus 7. Sounds like fun, right? Well, for the one viewing, but not exactly for the one playing. Regardless, there we go. 1 HP, 1 FP, and 1 stamina through the wonderland of Lothric. I have a whole assortment of weapons. However, I'm starting with the pike simply. It allows me a little reach advantage when it comes to the fact that, yeah, everything is going to kill me in one hit. There we go. We can't run, but at least we can die. You know what? Sometimes you just have to throw the whole run out the second you discover that this was a really bad idea.
Bye, have a beautiful time.
To emphasize again, I also have one brain cell remaining. So even when it's lethal to merely stub your toe, I am born to be stubborn. And I do at least still have the ability to parry. Although I was a bit worried about Pontiff and Sage because they do not have this lengthy kneeling down animation. In fact, I usually get a regular attack in before doing the riposte on Gundyr. Obviously not an option this time. Although an option that you do have and that you don't tend to make a lot of use of in general. Well, first of all, charge R2 attacks in general, but especially uncharge R2 attacks are something that you tend to forget that you can even do in the first place. Sure, mostly they aren't that useful, but when you can only do a single attack at a time, you will need to make the most of what you have to work with. Fortunately, the one benefit of playing on NG+7, or actually NG+21, but who's counting, and this is definitely the only benefit that you have, is that the early game is actually easier than if you would do it on regular New Game. Since you already have a leveled up character with a whole arsenal of upgraded weapons and items available that you wouldn't even have access to yet on a fresh character. And even against Vord we did massive damage. Although to be fair, even with 1 HP and 1 stamina, it's still easy to both inflict as well as avoid damage by simply staying underneath him. However, given how often it happens that you get clipped by his ice breath when attacking him from behind in his second phase, I chose to break his head instead for a stagger and riposte, because that way he is all bark and no frostbite. It is a shame though that we can't use weapon arts, because then we could have used our pike to charge Vord. Well, it's called that in Elden Ring, it's merely called charge in this one, but regardless, the advantage that NG+7 provides us with early on is not exactly going to last that long, and will eventually turn to a disastrous disadvantage. However, the Dancer has arguably way too little additional health on NG+7, which is kind of weird because there are a lot of enemies with dense armor in this game, and she is wearing denser armor. But it provides her with very little defense and a massive weakness to dark damage. In fact, I chose to stick to my pointy stick to make a point to nerf myself a bit, but it turned out that the pike's a pretty peak and practical poking polearm. In fact, when I eventually tried other weapons, they didn't even perform that much better. In general, damage output was not the issue here. However, let's not dance around the issue that damage output means nothing if you cannot prevent damage input. 1 HP means that any damage is all damage, and 1 stamina meant that I cannot roll twice in a row. And when you're dancing with the Dancer, you need to both rock and roll at once and in a row. Because the backwards attack in her second phase is followed up by an undodgeable follow-up under these circumstances. No matter how hard I would tap dance on the circle button, I simply could not dodge in time. So unless I wanted to rely on pure RNG, I simply could not stick behind her butt in the second phase, which is exactly where you normally, and also kind of in general, would want to be, making her other attacks much easier to avoid. However, if you remember, many years ago, I used to fight Dancer in a very different way. Also because of that backwards attack, since back on PS4 at 30 FPS, I always had trouble dodging that attack in the first place. Which is why I developed a very uncommon and arguably way less effective way of fighting her second phase. So it's very ironic that because of these circumstances, that very approach could now become the more effective approach. The only problem was, could I even remember how I used to do things? I mean, this valley girl here might be denser than me, but I'm pretty dense as well. Okay, that just happened to miss me because of how she was angled. Can't see anything because I'm against the... Yeah, that's good. Okay, good. Okay, nice. Okay. Okay, move away. Ah, shit. Maybe I shouldn't have done that then, but I was just worried about the backwards attack, of course. Okay, now... Yeah, that worked. That worked. Okay, only... Shit. Only a single hit. Only a single hit. I should have her now. Okay, now I got her. Okay. Got lucky there. Hey, and this time it worked, you know, the double stab, because I was already close enough so that the second attack wouldn't have to be dodged. Took longer than expected. Not trying to disrespect her, I just accidentally do a gesture. Now, since there is no actual progression in this playthrough, given that I don't need any more equipment or levels, the route I would take makes no actual difference. So I chose to just continue and press on into the castle towards the Dragon Slayer armor. But speaking of armor, since I couldn't use the armor trick to prevent triggering the dragons, I had no idea how I could possibly get past the fire. However, instead of instantly folding like a cheap lawn chair, I decided to turn into a chair. However, I nearly fell out of mine when it turned out that becoming chair failed. So I wish I could turn back time, because now the dragons are active even if you reset the area. As Spider Patches in Bloodborne would say, that was uncharitably done, dear friend. So therefore I chose a strategy that wouldn't exactly keep you on the edge of your chair, since it's a rather slow and tedious process. However, one of the armchair philosophers in my chat told me that you could approach the stairs without getting burnt in the process. However, listening to that quote-unquote advice did get me burnt in the process, in more ways than one. I guess the stairs he was referring to was the fact that everyone, including me, stares at the "you died" screen for the majority of this playthrough. And sure, I have beaten this game before with no stamina at all, but back then I could literally persevere through the fire. Not possible with only 1 HP. There you go. I still died from the fire! After all that, I still died from the fire. Well, at least they don't respawn. At least they don't respawn. Son of a fucking fuck up the fucker. God fucking damn it. Stupid. Dragon, you made the playthrough drag on a bit longer than it should have. But slaying the dragons, when you cannot make use of the armor, is still easier than slaying the dragon-slaying Dragon Slayer armor. Because somehow, his armor is denser than the dancer armor of the armored dancer. Quite significantly so, in fact. Well, I did say that routing makes no difference in this run, but let's make a long story short. You can't spell disaster without DSA, and this was turning into one. So we are in fact coming back to this one later on. Let's just continue on the normal route for now. Oh. He killed me while I was resting at the bonfire. That's peculiar. Very interesting. So is the one that kills still? No. Oh, I'm a little bit short. I'm a little bit short. Oh, that sucks. I can't really increase it other than...
Honey, where are my pants?
Lego movie reference. It does actually kill him in one hit now. Ow. But of course everything still kills me in one hit. Now the one benefit of having only a single hit point is that fall damage is percentage based. After all, I am at full health, so any fall that is not instantly lethal is automatically survivable. But of course, any other potential source of damage is never survivable. And the Red Tearstone Ring and Morion Blade are unusable, since I'm either at 1 HP or dead. Meaning that you can't just play hard, you will also have to play smart. To the point of even outsmarting a sage. Which is actually easy in theory, but not so much in practice. Getting 2 parries and repose to get his health low enough so you would only need a single hit in the second phase, when the clones are out, was actually already a numbers game that I hadn't calculated on. Because it would turn out that even with my strongest attack, he would still have too much health left. But the main problem was standing right in front of the real one after he teleports in the first place. After all, I never memorized the many different crystal patterns that indicate his exact location. I always tend to just go to the opposite end of his previous spawn location, which tends to mean that he's either right in front of you, or if he's not, he would be in either of the adjacent locations. But that strategy is not enough this time. Nor was a single charger 2 attack from my Lothric Greatsword enough when I did get lucky enough. So therefore I needed 2 two-pronged approaches. A Greatsword and a small sword to switch to, so that I hopefully would be able to get the final hit in. And the information that 2 crystals near the fork wall indicate that the real one spawns to the right of that location. Hey, 2 crystals, so let's try it here. Yeah! Switch! Kill him! No, kill him! Oh, I didn't hit him! It didn't work! It didn't work! It didn't work! Yeah, it's a real one! Oh, I got lucky! I got lucky! I got lucky! But the strategy didn't even work. It didn't work. I couldn't hit him. It wasn't fast enough. Oh my god, that was so lucky. Oh my god, my strategy failed and then I just won by pure luck. But still, that wasn't the meat of the playthrough. After all, Sage is a herbivore. Oh, fuck! Ah, I can't do the jump! Oh, I could roll over it. Okay, good. Oh, but now I can't do the jump there either. Oh, I didn't even think about that. I was just going on autopilot. I was just going on autopilot. Do Grave Wardens react to alluring skulls? No, they don't. But I still have now 2 Grave Wardens here and I can't run. Well, that's nice. Ah! And they don't react to alluring skulls apparently. Even though you would think they are hollow, but for whatever reason, it doesn't apply to them. Shit, the Grave Warden is still behind me. No! He landed on top of me. He landed on top of me. Fuck. And there is the shortcut. Son of a fuck. Well, under normal circumstances, the Deacons tend to be one of the easiest encounters in the entire game. But in challenge runs, that becomes a very different story. In fact, even getting to them was, did a thrall just fall on my head? How thrilling. Oh, and when designing the giant stomp attacks, they evidently had some hitboxes left from Dark Souls 2. Yeah. But what about the actual boss fight? I mean, it is a large group of enemies, each of them a D-Con, but I am a D-Pro. So, how did it go? Well...
like this, like that, like this, like that, like this, like that, like this, like that.
Yeah, under these circumstances, this boss fight turns into the Deacons of being in deep shit. However, I did at least figure out that if I threw a skull, and immediately threw another after killing the red glowing one, they wouldn't have enough time to aggro on me before falling for the alluring allure of the alluring skull again, preventing me from going out of my skull. Then I used my usual back of the room strategy to give myself more time with the main Deacon with less of his D-consorts around. However, even the immensely powerful backstab of my Lothric Knight Greatsword, empowered with the Hornet Ring, still gave disappointing results, and the lengthy animation left me vulnerable on top of that. However, then, non-commenter went against their name and commented a very powerful tip to use charge R2 attacks instead. Perhaps it was a misspelling of non-commenter, providing some holy aid within this holy aids inducing mess of an unholy mass. Maybe I do have enough. Quick! Kill him! Yes! I did it! 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 Yeah, where's your god now, deacons? Hey, I guess it's time for them to deconvert. Now, even though it turned out that wearing a curse-resistant outfit wasn't even necessary to prevent me from uttering constant curses, poison resistance did help me traversing Farron Swamp. So even with 1 HP, what you are wearing can prevent you from feeling worn out. Although I still needed to consume grass like a true Dutchman. But being truly true to myself, I forgot to do that when it actually mattered most. Yeah. Perhaps press continue doesn't refer to determination, but references instead how often I need to redo things unnecessarily, turning an already abysmal experience even more abysmal. But hey, that's what you guys like to watch, is it not? Well, the Abyss Watchers, in principle, wouldn't have to become an abysmal experience, because just like in any playthrough, I could simply rely on backstabs. However, follow-up attacks were not safe this time, and even the backstab animation itself could leave me a little bit too vulnerable. But the true reason it took longer than expected is because the Abyss Watchers were taking Dubbiss. And I had to watch out for something that I didn't even know was a possibility. Because apparently, he can do an overhead attack instead of the somersault at the end of that combo. Evidently he was trying to make me salty, to the point that I wouldn't be able to get through the fight before the start of summer. There we go. It makes sense that they are weak to backstabs, because the one place they cannot watch is behind their backs. They don't have eyes on their backs after all. Then again, maybe they do. I mean, this is such a disturbing world of horrors that people with eyes in the backs of their heads would not exactly be the weirdest thing that you would encounter in a From Software world, if you ask me. Let's hope that the double attack, you know, from my double hammers will be sufficient. I am a little skeptical, but we're going to find out. Of course, just touching the edge of the smoke. But fortunately, you can stand behind it, which is absolutely nonsensical, but that's actually how it works. Yes, you can stand behind the smoke. Does that make sense? Probably in From Software's mind it does, somehow. I don't know exactly how. Evidently it does. Okay, quick, move forward. Shit. Oh, he's going to summon, so I have to quickly kill him. Oh wait, that's not a summon maybe. I don't know. Quickly! Yeah, do it! One more! No! 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 Please! One more! Yeah, there we go. Okay, nice. That went perfect. Almost not, but that went perfect. That means no second try necessary, because then I would probably be stuck here for a while. Wolnir did not prove to be an obstacle. He could have been a wall, but he was only something near to a wall. The Drang hammers definitely came in handy. Against the hands. I do wonder if it would help if I turn into a chair again, or whatever I'm changing into in this environment. Probably a statue. Yeah, a statue. I wonder if I can just sneak my way past these guys this way. I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but if I sneeze now, then that would give me away. If I go statue, he's walking up against me. He doesn't. He's like, huh. Basically, he lost his marble and I acquired mine. Huh. Good thing I meet the statue requirements to use this item. In a weird roundabout way. Oh, whoa! Is this percentage based? Yeah, this is percentage based. Oh, awesome! This is percentage based. Oh, I didn't even consider the jailers. But it's percentage based. You can't get to less than 1 HP from the jailers. They can't actually kill you with their maximum health reduction, because your maximum health, it can only be 1 at the lowest. Oh, awesome. I did not even consider that. I just went into this area and then all of a sudden I was like, oh fuck, the jailers. But it turns out that it's not a problem. Not only do I pretty much never use the Storm Ruler anymore against Yorm, but given its lengthy charging time, it wouldn't be a good choice now anyway. However, since I am the size of an ant, and he is the size of a giant, in order to make him permanently horizontal, I needed an attack that goes vertical. And it seemed like I had the perfect attack, because a one-handed uncharged R2 attack from the Lothric Knight Greatsword goes vertical, and with its lightning infusion, mostly inflicts lightning damage, which Yorm is explicitly weak to. And indeed, my damage output was enormous. However, despite the attack being uncharged, and Yorm's relatively slow movement, the negative stamina regen was just a tiny bit too slow for it to be safe enough. So therefore I exchanged the giant sword for its smaller counterpart, which also goes vertical but when two-handing instead. Although of course lower damage output and more precision required to actually hit the head, but what truly mattered is that it was safe. Not to mention that I actually could get more damage out of the riposte, not because of the critical modifier strangely enough, but because I could also sneak in a regular attack in on his head before doing the critical. And that in turn was a critical improvement that sped things up enough so that I wouldn't have to fill the profaned capital with profanity in all capital letters. So after bringing this giant low, I ascended up Dragon's Peak for some not so peak dragon content, unfortunately. No idea why the wyvern is even in the game, but you can't spell wyvern without Y. Now I did attempt to do things the fancy way, by using a jump attack to directly get upon his head, rather than going the long way around past all the enemies who would probably kill me before or upon the ladder anyway. But when this approach was also taking about as long as that approach would take, I decided to just take the even lengthier approach and make this the second dragon whose health I would whittle down by shooting it a lot both with and in arrow. Just like the moveset of this quote-unquote boss, containing only 4 moves, there are basically only 4 approaches to take against it, none of which are satisfying in any way, shape or form. If I could delete any boss from the game, well, I would still delete Half-Light before this one, but the point is that the ancient wyvern should have been ancient history a long time ago. Light the bonfire? Awesome. Yeah, that's fine. Rickard is kind of a dickard, if you ask me. And it might also seem like ancient history that the Nameless King was regarded as the hardest boss that From Software has ever made. Be that as it may, under these conditions I got a bit of a taste of what it was like back then. Now KFC before that was a mere drop in the bucket, no special approach required at all, and my damage was outright massive. In fact, when I realized that switching rings could potentially result in an instant ring out, I simply didn't even bother with lightning damage anymore and just stuck with a dark weapon, since that did more than sufficient damage anyway. On a side note, unless KFC's name is Of the Storm, he is just as much a Nameless King as the one on his back. However, the one on his back was here to take names and kick butt, because it quickly became evident that this would become a struggle against muscle memory, because I could not dodge his sideways attacks with only 1 stamina point. Normally you dodge sideways or better yet into him, but this time I was forced to dodge away from him in order to automatically avoid any potential follow-up. But worse than that, and also kind of because of that, finding safe attack opportunities was a problem to begin with. I even switched to a dagger for the smallest amount of negative stamina. In fact, I even upgraded a bandit knife, however it turned out that that one did less damage than the regular one, and there was no way that I would get a bleed proc like this anyway. I even tried stacking stamina regeneration, which would apply to negative stamina as well. However, that difference was so incredibly small that it would require constant frame-perfect inputs on top of an already strict timing, including timing differences in his attacks. Not a viable approach. However, during his slow stab attacks, I could circle around him for a charge a 2 attack of my own. So whenever that happened, I would switch to my Lothric sword for additional damage, and then I would switch back to my dagger for when I had to sneak in hits here and there. That sounds at least like an effective approach, right? Perhaps in name only. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's not rush it. The turtle won against the hare. So act like a turtle in order to get out of a hairy situation. Ooh! Almost there. Let's not get greedy. Don't get greedy. Give me a... Oh, he doesn't give me a charger to attack. Otherwise I would have won. Shit. Ah. No, not get greedy. We're not getting greedy. This should be the one. Yes. I won. Awesome. Ah, no big deal. As we say in my country. Dan mag je een naam hebben. To explain what that means, basically to say that doesn't require a name, that means something like, oh, that's no big deal. Dan mag je een naam hebben. Nameless King was no match for the power of the Raggedy Pants. Exactly. After getting it through their thick skulls not to target me, I made my way past Sullivan's solid vanguard. And to be honest, I wasn't actually expecting any issues against the big man himself. After all, as long as you can parry him, he is a big pontiff among small fish. However, in the second phase, I couldn't perform a parry right after a roll. So it turned into a clown show when a clone showed up. Therefore, I thought that poison could help me out a little, on top of getting the most parry damage late in the first phase, so that he would have less health in the second phase. However, then something strange happened. He didn't summon the clone right after the phase transition, which is something that happens once in a blue moon, so I wasn't one-handing when he gave me a parry opportunity, unfortunately, because that would have been the victory right there and then. However, it seems that the moon always shines blue in Aerofil, always as in this time, always, because he was not summoning the clone immediately, quite consistently. There was something about this specific pattern that made that happen. No idea why, but now I simply had to wait underneath the moon of Aerofil for the ideal conditions. So that Pontiff would be like, Mr. Press, I don't Aerofil so good. Oh shit, that was with his right. Oh fuck, I could have had that one. Yeah, but now he's not giving me a parry. Okay, there I got him. Okay, now I should have him. Now I should have him. That's better. Okay, that's better. Okay. At least that was close enough. I was actually hoping that he would simply do the overhead one, but fair enough. Fair enough. It got the job done. With Pontiff Sully vanquished, I made my way to one of the fights that I dreaded most in this playthrough. Aldrich with his all-devouring fire on the ground, since all it would have to devour is only a single freaking hit point. And since I had to prevent him from teleporting, so that he wouldn't have constant homing projectiles around, and so that he wouldn't do the giant arrow rain, because even when I could make it to the safe zone in the back of the room, surviving there definitely put the project in projectiles. This entire fight was focused around spacing. Very precise spacing. But hey, good luck with that when there are instant death flames all over the floor. However, ironically, I mostly died before all of that from the other arrow rain, since I cannot run around him, and quickstepping didn't help either. In other words, even more spacing problems. But at the very least I could inflict massive freaking damage on him with the Great Mace, which is indeed a Great Mace, when you get body shots combined with sweet spots. However, to be fair, this made spacing even more of a problem, since charged or even uncharged R2 attacks are slow. But hey, come on, seeing these massive numbers was just too satisfying. In fact, if we could all just see those numbers on our bank accounts, we would be all rich. Yeah, I was against the wall there, so now the projectiles are out, so I'm probably going to die. I'm alive. Shit, but now he's teleporting again. I'm somehow still alive. Ah, come on! Oh, one more hit. Shit. I can't reach him. I'm fucked. Yeah, good. That's what I need. Yes, I got him. I got him. Thank you for doing the life hunt scythe. Thank you for doing the life hunt scythe, because that doesn't leave any fire behind. And that closed the distance. That was amazing. Thank you, Aldrich. Finally some good RNG. RNGs go. RNGs go. RNGs go. RNGs is my bro. Well, usually not, but this time he was. He's an occasional bro. Now, before going back into Lothric Castle to settle the score with Dragonslayer armor, I went back to the settlement to get kicked even harder in the balls. Because I assumed I could just quickly scorch the scrotum of the botanical ballsack boss. And initially, things went extremely well. I first went for the balls where the balls normally would be, minus the whole being on a living tree part, in order to spend as little time as possible in the first phase, with all the hollows around. I even managed to bust more balls before dropping down, torched even more testicles after dropping down, narrowly nuked more nuts with some elbow grease, but right at the end, the hand somehow still managed to hand my own balls back to me. Not sure if I agree with how it lingered like that, but yeah, it did get the hand job done from his perspective. And you know how when you almost win first try, it often goes completely downhill from there? Well, this as well turned into a testicle of endurance, after what should have been a first try victory. I always say that gimmick bosses like these just don't work, but apparently I'm just barking up the wrong tree. And thus, when I got close again, I decided to wrap things up by putting a bow on this compost heap of a fight, in order to permanently root this dendrological dick with too many things dangling from it to the ground. Before returning to Dragonslayer armor, there was other unfinished business in the castle, or more specifically, behind it. Although, to be honest, this wasn't exactly much of an improvement. And no, surprisingly, it wasn't merely because of Osiris's insta-charge, aka the Osirush. Well, it definitely also was very much because of that. Very much so indeed. But it also wasn't merely because of the first phase practically giving me more trouble, surprisingly, as attacking him from the front was never guaranteed to be safe, forcing yourself behind him was inconsistent, and whether he would jump enough, or leave enough room to not instantly die from secondhand smoking, was up to his whims, and he is a fickle fuck. And of course after that he turns into a fast and ferociously fickle fuck. But, in the end, no, the worst thing of all was not how fast he would become, but how slow the goddamn fucking run back was. As these are the predecessors of the imp enemies from Elden Ring. And elevating our thoughts to a new plane of existence, like in Bloodborne, well, there are elevators on both sides, and going the other way around wasn't exactly an improvement either. I was dealing with so much RNG here that the Osiris fight turned into an oscillatory. So, even though I was not intending to cheese him with arrows, but when he chose to put himself into the right location, I was not going to shit a gift horse in the mouth. Hey, it's like when you don't even attempt to cheese the Dragon Rider in Dark Souls 2, but then he yeets himself off the platform anyway. And you might say, cheap, but I wouldn't, because I'm not a bird. And although I'm not trying to poke fun at you, the hollow in front of Gandir's boss room did have fun poking at me. And despite the fact that it seemed like I was humiliating Gandir with repeated parries, he still ended up having the last laugh when he had a tiny bit of health remaining, because you cannot parry his shoulder, and since it comes right after another attack, with one stamina, you literally cannot dodge it either. And quickly getting an R1 in so you won't need a final parry? Well, not with an ultra greatsword. Probably would have worked with a smaller variant. However, since that one does less damage despite its critical bonus, I still would have required the exact same amount of parries anyway. Whatever may be the case, the cause of death would be obvious when his corpse is eventually discovered and they perform a post-mortem examination. So I guess this was a slight test of patience, but absolutely nothing like what happened before, and definitely not anything like what happened after this. Because that wouldn't merely require me to be patient, it turned me into a mental patient. Because Gandir might have champion in his name, but the true champion of dudes in armor is the armor without a dude in it. Well, I am going to try to make a long story short, because this took way too many attempts to go through everything that we tried. So in a nutshell, made out of solid steel and controlled by otherworldly butterflies, when you cannot rely on roll attacks and or the ability to immediately dodge right after an attack, and you are only familiar with no-roll strats in the sense that they exist, but not on how to properly execute them, this fight turns into a complete nightmare. Frostbite is out, as Vord's hammer is way too slow and the additional damage is actually quite disappointing, compared to the Great Mace that is essentially just the same weapon without the frost. And the Earful Sword and Rapier have too little build-up and do so little damage that the extra damage from frost becomes meaningless. The Drang hammers actually performed the best, but still too slow to have any sort of consistent results. I missed! No! Because that was the main issue, consistency. You simply have almost no truly safe attack opportunities, as the boss is fickle as fuck and just refuses to do the right attacks, and especially finish the goddamn 3-hit combo, which is my best opportunity, with any type of consistency. In fact, moving around him without getting hit in the process already wasn't all that consistent. Because the point is, I cannot dodge right before or right after an attack. So after trying literally anything that I could think of, the best results I got were with a dagger of all things. Because that has the lowest negative stamina burden, making the fight as close to normal as possible. But the low damage output makes this fight drag on for so long, which becomes even worse when the Pilgrim Poopa start throwing shit all across the arena. I actually turned the music down so that I could listen for the sound cues that indicate the different attacks of the Pilgrim Poopa, and that actually gave me an idea. If I had to use my ears, well, there is a weapon that you cannot spell without ear, the Rapier. Essentially a weapon that feels similar to using a dagger, but one that proves that size does indeed matter, quite a lot. More damage than the dagger, but quick enough for more attacks, either R1 or R2. Because if you want to make sure that this armor is no more, you will need to put pressure on the armor by pressing R more. 1 or 2, either or. Or so I thought, because I tried this weapon off stream and I immediately got one hit away from victory. Therefore I expected that I would then quickly gain actual victory on the next stream. Not entirely accurate. Another 2.5 hours passed, and eventually I returned to my very first setup. The Chaos Infused Lothric Nightsword. Full circle in a sense, but with the addition of using Vord's hammer during the phase transition because of the scripted stagger animation, giving you enough time to actually use it. But other than that, did anything change? No. It's merely that if you keep bashing your head against a wall for long enough, it either becomes, or better said, demonstrates, that the inside of your head is pretty much as hollow as the empty suit of armor that you're fighting. No follow-up, of course not. Fuck, there's another barrage coming. Fuck, that was actually not safe. Whoa, I got really lucky there. That was not even safe. Oh, he does a delayed one, of course. Oh, oh! Fuck, but now he does it. There's another barrage coming. Ah! fuck? There's a barrage here. What the hell? What a chaos. Come on, do something. It doesn't need one hit. Just do something, you fuck. I'm going for it. Yeah, fuck you. Fucking son of a fucking god. Fucking. Alright, first try. Okay, it wasn't that big of a deal. Is it possible for your brain to sink down into your asshole? Because that's what it feels like. I'm getting too old for this shit. I'm gonna take a victory piss, that's for sure. I would almost take a victory wank, to be honest, at this point. Whoa, holy crap. If that was such a royal pain in the ass, who knows what the twin princes are going to be like. Fortunately, Lorien, at least initially, looked quite a bit more promising. Lorianne, because you're worth it. So that was at least a little bit of sunshine within the darkness. Be that as it may, when it rains, it pours. And it definitely made me feel under the weather, desperately trying to somehow avoid the magic hail with 1 stamina while the Telebros are teleporting. On top of that, Lorien by himself merely seemed consistent initially, but it took some time to set up a proper setup. A lightning mace in one hand and claws in the other. Why something that peculiar? Well, it was to account for different timings. I needed a quick attack for when I was unsure what Lorien would do, when I'm sticking behind him and he's circling along with me. But then I would need a more hard-hitting attack when he would leave a clear and evident opening. And the claws have nearly as little recovery time as a dagger, but they do have a bit more damage output. Although the addition of bleed didn't actually seem to help at all, not even when I tried to exchange the mace for a Morning Star. It does in fact seem to be the case that status resistances go up with the higher New Game Plus cycles. Not to mention that poise also increases. And I mean the poise of bosses, not of you, I mean it's Dark Souls 3. Which meant that no matter how many hits I got in, I never actually managed to stagger Lorien for that sweet critical damage. Oh, and yes, I know that you can parry him, but that does not allow for a critical attack, making it practically useless anyway. Moreover, it also requires you to be in front of him, and the one thing I had to prevent at all costs was being in front of him, since a double sword swipe with 1 stamina implies automatic instant death. But in the end, does any of that even matter if you can't even survive the magic projectiles in order to even get started with the second phase in the first place? Well, I'm alive. This is not a good place with the pillars. Whoa. Fuck the pillar. Don't like that. We're in the corner of the room. Really weird. Oh, the wall! What the hell? What? Why these weird locations? I don't like this at all. Look at this. Look at this! Fuck. Yeah, damn it, I don't know. Fuck, that's not good. Shit. I got him! Oh, who would have thought that that would be the victory? What the fuck, bro? Who would have thought that that was completely fucked against the wall and all that kind of stuff? Oh, and somehow that was the victory. What the fuck, bro? The twin princes are a royal pain in the ass. At least that didn't go down the toilet, because that would have been a royal flush. Alright, that princess fight felt like a crowning achievement, and getting past Croverine by turning into a statue felt like a crowing achievement. Also, I didn't even find myself between the hammer and Wilhelm, since he could easily be parried and backstabbed. Now, the section with the wolves was indeed a bit of a skull check, but as long as you immediately go for the shortcut handle, the flies won't make you fly off the handle. But the fight against Frida did. Although ironically, there was really nothing all that special to it. Just backstab her in the first and third phases. And in the second phase, it turned out that Frostbite is actually purely percentage based. And not with an additional flat damage amount. Meaning that I cannot die to Frostbite in the first place. But despite all of that, I just kept dying over and over and over again. Mainly to stupid shit. Some really stupid shit, in fact. So, because of the massive critical damage from my Dark Dagger, it wasn't the third or third phases that were the issue. Well, the third phase kinda was because of Frida's speed, and the tracking of the floor flames ferociously following me across the floor frame trapping me. But all in all, the main issue was how dragged out the second phase was. Since when you're slow and kinda need the damage from charge and 2 attacks, in order to drag things not out even further, although the frostbite means nothing, you're still walking on thin ice, resulting in you getting left out in the cold. So I decided to give Ariandel the cold shoulder by giving him something much worse than a mere cold. However, poison doesn't exactly add that much additional damage, but at least he was taking damage while I wasn't able to attack him in the first place. And dung pies were not a viable option, because Frida input reads the use of consumables, causing her to start dashing towards you. Now, why this nun is designed like that, who knows. None your business, I suppose. Okay. Okay, one backstab. Why? Why is that not a backstab? I was behind her. Fuck you. I literally took into account that she twists her body like that, and it still didn't count. And this one did count, okay. Makes a lot of sense. That attack works me as well because of the tracking. And now it didn't count. Son of a fuck. Okay. Okay, I only need a single one, I think. Come on. Count? Count! Yes! Okay, please let this be enough. I don't know if this is enough. Is this enough? No! It's not enough! It's not enough! Kill! Fucking fuck! Okay, that is done. The nun is done. And that was not fun. But she's gone. Ah, what a pain in the buns. I wish I had a gun. But I won. Progress. We won't have none of that anymore, exactly. Ah, finally fucking progress. It was about goddamn time that we damned Frida to hell and earned our freedom, damn it. But although going from beating a nun to the angels from hell didn't send me straight up to heaven, because you can reach all the way into the heavens with a bow, given the fact that the angels do in fact have a hurt box. They might respawn though, so I also sniped the angelic pooper, so that they wouldn't, even if I would mess up by not being able to see the shortcut for the trees. But despite that unexpectedly smooth descent, we now had to descend way further down straight into Satan's asshole, where I met the Belgium demon from below and the French demon in Brad from even further down below. At least that's my own personal perspective and headcanon. Well, I wish I had the cannon from Bloodborne to not lose my head during all the failed attempts in this fight. Because chronologically, I actually went here first. And then took a break from it by going to Frida. Which actually resulted in a 6-hour stream where I made literally zero progress. Since I didn't manage to beat either of them until the next stream. In fact, the frustration reached to the point that I turned myself into the demon in the window pane, going down even further below. The main issue, well, other than the actual main issue which got me killed 80% of the time, namely attacks that you think would go over your head, not actually going over your head. And if there's an easy way to tell the difference, then that fact did in fact go over my head. But the other main issue was the damned if you do, damned if you don't weapon choices. Relying on bleed when you cannot chain attacks together, for like not even 1,000 or so extra damage when it does finally happen to proc, will eventually cause you to pop a blood vessel instead. But at least the recovery time of these weapons are not that long. Although L1 attacks from the Warden Blades still would leave me vulnerable when it truly mattered. And when a fight takes a long time, your luck will eventually run out. And although I could inflict massive damage instead with the Black Knight weapons, but with recovery time that lengthy, against such fast and aggressive enemies, means that unlike me with my one fucking stamina point, my luck was downright sprinting out at an Olympic speed. I guess by doing this run I basically signed a contract with the devil himself. But speaking of how contracts are constructed, there was an alternative that also helped me out before against the other princes, the Claws, which I contracted a real liking to, because as it turns out, despite the L1 attack being a longer animation than from the Warden Blades, the R1 attack from Claws consumes less stamina than even the R1 attack from a dagger. It is literally the safest attack that I can possibly use under these circumstances. And therefore I could, with the greatest reluctancy of course, embrace the massive length of this fight, because on NG+7 the demons individually have over 10,000 HP, and given the double defenses of the Demon Prince, he essentially has that combined HP on top of that. So in a practical sense over 40,000 HP in total. Against my measly 1. Meaning this fight wasn't easily won. Not even when it was 1-on-1, and especially not when it was 1 against 2. Also, adding Dark Resin does nothing on NG+7, that's like 20 damage per hit extra or so. But I do at least still have the occasional bleed proc. Although not as often as I would like, obviously. So it sure as hell felt like climbing a massive mountain, the Demon Blanc. And starting the climb buried down deep into the earth. But at least I was now suffering the lowest burden from my negative stamina consumption. So in that sense, the Claws were such a gift that I would like to refer to them as Santa Claus. Yeah? Come on, move. Okay, got a bleed. Yeah? Oh, I got a stagger. Oh, I wish I had a dagger equipped. Fuck. Whoa, that was a weird angle. Come on. Ah. So close. I could have him now. Move. If I get a bleed, I win. Damn it! I didn't get a bleed! One more hit! Kill him! Yes! The claws were the answer. Oh, that took way too many attempts. But at least on my end, that was a demonstration of perseverance. To put it in my own language, ik denk dat ik vanavond Prins heerlijk zal slapen. Okay, we made progress. Frida and Demon Prince. I'm going to take a victory piss. You can actually turn these guys into some healthy type of pudding. Low-fat pudding. Low custard. Well, that's fucking disgusting. Oh, hey, that's also disgusting. He pushed me off for that stupid joke. I guess that was actually fair. Gravity still is more deadly than even the most damaging attack in the entire game. Of course, that it is the most damaging attack in the entire game doesn't exactly matter when you only have 1 HP. Hey, hello. Hey, no, I roll off myself. No. Well, that one felt less earned. Well, Medeer flying across the bridge gave a very narrow window of survivability, especially because getting pushed once more over the edge, of my sanity this time. Medeer on the bridge was nothing special fortunately, so soon enough he was mere water under the bridge, and also into the water under the bridge. And the real Medeer fight was a bridge that I would cross when I get to it, because my assumption was that Half-Light would be a bridge too far. Since Half-Light becomes a full-on heavy weight under these circumstances. And there was no way to cheese him with poison mist through the pillar with only 1 FP. And straight up fighting with an NPC boss is straight up represented by the zodiac sign with the crab symbol, if you catch my drift. Because NPC fights are completely broken in this game, and the old school stun locking technique with charger 2 attacks from an alter greatsword is already very inconsistent, but with 1 stamina point, I cannot even chain them together in the first place. Now it is possible to hit them with dunk pies, but I couldn't get the angle or distance right. Especially when you move forward when throwing them. And in addition to that, I don't even know if 10 dunk pies are sufficient on NG+7. Oh, and probably worst of all, every freaking attempt you need to get past the Ringed Knight and then listen to the dialogue that you cannot skip through, nor can you open up your inventory during if you need to change something. How about Adjudicator R go fuck yourself? So, when the continuation of the run is on the line, fortunately, you can be online. And I received some help from the greatest Lucas since George. So then, when you can make light work of Half-Light like this, Half-Light is not half bad. But contrary to my expectations, Medeer was. Although we did make light work of the first half of the fight. Which wasn't all that different from pretty much any other challenge run. Other than the no stamina challenge, of course. Especially because my damage output was really solid. Even more so when I switched from lightning to sharp infusion, since he is weaker to thrust than to lightning. However, when he unleashed the dark, I was completely in the dark on how on earth I was going to avoid the dark tracers. Because I cannot run, and the gap between my rolls kept getting me killed. And thus, it seemed like we were stuck in another lottery situation, where I would need to get the opportunity to break Medeer's head in the second phase, before he would do the dark tracers in the first place. But that is all up to RNG. And it turns out that Lady Luck is quite a fickle fuck. Please, no dark tracers. I need 4 attacks, I think. I probably need 4 attacks. No dark tracers and 4 attacks. He starts with it. Okay, I'm going to move backwards. Let's see if this helps. Maybe this helps. Oh! I dodged it! Wow! Oh, but he's doing the laser and I'm in the bad position. Wow, that is a terrible combination. I dodged the tracers and he does the laser when I'm far away. Talk about terrible RNG. I dodged the dark tracers by moving backwards and he does the laser. Well, I'm moving backwards, but I don't know what's going to happen. No, I still couldn't do it. It's still RNG dependent, whether even if you move back. Oh, it's the other dark tracers. I think I'm dead. Dude, this is just way too much RNG. I need every possible form of... Oh, he's already doing it. I'm fucked. I'm fucked. Maybe, yeah. Oh, he's doing it twice in a row. Dude. Oh, he's doing the Dark Tracers now. Oh, fuck, I forgot the... Oh, yeah, I forgot the Blossom. Oh, I think I simply got lucky, not because of the Blossom. But that is good, at least. That is good, at least. Maybe because I was locked on? I doubt it really was because of the stamina regen. Oh, he's doing it again. Okay, I'm locked on. Yeah, it might be simply because I'm locked on. Because I'm dodging sideways like that. I think that's more likely, actually. Well, whatever it is, if it's working, it's working. Well, either or is helping me, so... Oh, no! I got hit. Oh, but he was now constantly doing it. That really sucked. Maybe... Do it! Break him! Yeah! I broke him! Broke him! Is this enough? Oh, it's not enough! What the fuck? It's not enough! Oh my god, are you kidding me? It's not enough. Oh, yeah! Ah, that was enough! Oh my god! Oh, at the very end. Unbelievable. Oh, I was not expecting that the repose would not be enough. Oh my god. Hey, that was the first try that counted. That was the first try that counted. It's 2:25 in the, at night. It's 2:25 a.m. He has become Dust Eater mid-year. What an RNG lottery fuckfest, but we made it through. We made it through. Mid-year, my dear, that still almost went wrong right at the end. And speaking of things going wrong at the end, now with the end in sight, I was pushed to the end of my rope. Because without a doubt, the harshest and most seemingly insurmountable roadblock in this playthrough turned out to be Gil and Soul of Cinder. Although it is hard to explain in words exactly why, without you experiencing it for yourself. But to be fair, you should not experience this for yourselves. First of all, obviously we are dealing with very lengthy and complex fights in the first place, but what made both of their first phases so unimaginably painful on top of that, is the immense precision required when it comes to your button inputs when you only have one stamina. And specifically the need to dodge earlier than usual, because even if you do manage to iframe through an attack at the start of your dodge animation, basically doing it like normal, but that makes it impossible to dodge the follow-up as well. In other words, you need to be early. And in addition to timing issues, we simply cannot inflict meaningful amounts of damage to begin with. Heavy weapons are too slow, status effects barely do anything other than poison, and we can only make use of the weakest variant. The Storyteller staff is unusable, and hitting him with enough dung pies didn't seem viable. Making the Kestis of all things the best choice of weapon. But on NG+7, merely getting through the first phase takes a long time. Now, the second phase, in principle at least, should be less of an issue, because his attacks become much slower. However, you need to constantly stay close to him since his crossbow becomes undodgeable under these conditions, unless you dodge into him while already pushed up against him. However, I never fight him this way, and given that I practically never even survive long enough to get to his second phase, I simply didn't get enough opportunities to get a feel for it. And we were already on the 8th freaking stream of this challenge. Things were simply taking too long. I already don't manage to put out videos quickly enough, so at some point I simply can't drag things out much longer. And with Soul of Cinder being as daunting, if not worse, but I obviously have to defeat the actual final boss to at least complete the challenge, I simply required some way to save time on Gil, which meant using a cheese tactic. Now obviously there is no water here to make him fall into, nor would it be possible to drown Gil in the first place, because Gills can breathe underwater. So I decided to use the wall cheese tactic, which honestly took enough effort in and of itself to set up. Because first of all, I didn't even realize that he could get unstuck depending on your position in the arena, and attacking him from below without the Pontiff Scythe buffing animation, like how I did it in my no stamina challenge, which cost FP and therefore wasn't possible this time. And it turned out that using vertical attacks wasn't viable either. And another time he got stuck in mid-air, which made him even worse than mid-air. Until finally he was in the right location, and so was I. Yeah, not very satisfying and also not truly necessary, but it did allow me to focus my remaining time on Soul of Cinder. And wow, did he burn my very soul to cinders. Because this felt practically impossible. Not only could I barely make it through his first phase, I couldn't even make it through the first form of the first phase initially. This is the perfect example of how dependent you are on roll attacks. The ability to dodge immediately after attacking, or, if all else fails, the ability to take damage. Or, I suppose, have a deep enough understanding of no roll, no sprint strategies. None of which applies to me. Basically, you don't get any safe attack opportunities other than after the slow turning attack. And in principle after he does the flaming uppercut 3 times in a row. Which in all of the hours I was fighting him, he only did twice. One of which after I was already dead. The best I could do is to stick to his side and attack after his attacks would miss me. But only specific attacks, because if it has a follow-up, you will still die. At least the L1 attacks of the Dark Infused Sellsword Windblades were allowing me to do good damage against him, and were a better choice than the Grave Warden Blades, since I was unlikely to get a bleed proc anyway, and even if I would, that would be offset by doing less damage per hit to even get that proc in the first place. However, in the magic phase, it would often push me to his side, making the projectiles unavoidable. But the thing is that I needed to keep attacking him in order to get a stagger, because of the stupid mechanic where the projectiles remain even when he changes forms. If you stagger him, those projectiles will disappear, unless he is a complete dick and resummons them again. And of course, during the Pyromancy form I couldn't attack at all, with the possible exception of when he uses Power Within and I'm already close enough to get there in time and get out of there in time. But during the Spear phase, my attacks become too slow unless side-strafing his slowest attack, which already has immense tracking, so I had to switch to the Kestis R1 for that phase. But of course, at any time, a single mistake, the slightest mistiming, since I cannot queue inputs to begin with, and it was all over. The thing is that I wasn't worried at all about the second phase. But here's the problem. I couldn't freaking get to the second phase in the first place. But if I could, it just would be a matter of being patient enough to wait for one-handed jump attacks followed by a follow-up. At least that's what I thought. However, there was one aspect that I hadn't taken into account, and to make it worse, when I initially, finally, after literal hours got to the second phase, I made the dumbest mistake I have ever made. I missed! Okay, don't forget about that then. Okay, no follow-up. Oh, what? Why am I doing that? I should not have just unequipped it. I finally get to the second. I unequipped it. Yeah, I was like, flinching. Oh my god, I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm going to miss, but... Oh, I gotta hit him. Nice. Ah, 1. That's okay. 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 Focus. Focus, please. Focus. We're finally in... No, that's a two-handed. It's two-handed. Two-handed. One-handed? No follow-up. Shit. Shit RNG. That's shit RNG. One-handed? Follow-up? So little extra damage. Still no follow-up? Shit. Come on, give me better RNG. Come on. No, don't get stuck in the environment. Yeah, follow-up? Okay, moment of truth. No! Then how the hell do you do that? I don't get it. Was I really not close enough? I thought I had it, but yeah, I can't roll twice, so... Please. Ah! I avoided it! I avoided it, but how many more times do I have to do that? One mistake is all it takes. But that's how to do it, you have to stay- Hey! Huh? Close. Huh? Come on, just do one-handed jump attacks plus follow-up. Oh yeah, still more than half of his health left. He's doing it again. Ah! Please, 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 please. Oh, fucking... Oh! No, okay, I'm not even doing it. Fuck, I can't even attack. He's not giving me any fucking attack opportunities. Why is he not giving me any attack opportunities? Why such shit RNG? Ah! I missed! Why am I getting such shit RNG? No, there's no follow-up. There is no follow-up. I don't dare. I don't dare. Dude, give me an attack opportunity. What the fuck is this? I can't. I can't. I can't attack. I don't dare. No! Why was he not giving me any attack opportunities? Why? Why? Why was it no attack opportunity? There was just nothing I could do. He never gave me an attack opportunity. No follow-up? Why not? Why no follow-up? No! Why do I still get it? I have to dodge the lightning too often. He doesn't give me enough attack opportunities. He just doesn't do follow-ups after the one-handed attack. I need him to do a follow-up. And I guess that's it. In all of these hours of trying, I only made it to the second phase 3 times. And I simply messed up on the lightning. I'm sure I could get the correct spacing and timing if I had more opportunities. But things were already taking so damn long. So, all in all, I just did not get the opportunity to try again. And sometimes you simply have to know when to call it quits. To throw in the towel, concede that some challenges are just too much to handle, and submit.
Had enough. So, you're human after all. The torture will stop as I promised.
It is a sad day when I can no longer press continue and have to allow for a game over. But I suppose that day has finally arrived. Fuck that, not on this channel. And there we are, Dark Souls 3 with 1 HP, 1 FP, 1 stamina on New Game Plus 7. 3 games down under these conditions, but still 3 more to go. Oh, and apparently in Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1, with 1 stamina it seems to be the case that you cannot even roll at all. So that will be fun. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you later.